Going back to the NES era, coming off the video game crash of 1983 and the smash success of Super Mario Bros., Nintendo was pumping out amazing games in their 8-bit cash cow. Mega Man and The Legend of Zelda are two of the biggest franchises that got their start on the NES, and have seen many, many sequels since. The NES also had its fair share of garbage shovelware, using movie licenses, celebrities, or professional sports stars just to sell a game. John always quarterback anyone? But the game I am looking at today featured one of the most well-known boxers in history, and is one of the few games that has aged well over the last 25 years since it had been released. This is Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. First up, a little backstory. Punch-Out was originally released in the arcades in 1984, with its sequel Super Punch-Out being released a year later, along with the only spin-off in the series, Arm Wrestling. In 1987, a special edition gold version of the game was given out as a prize for a Famicom-sponsored golf tournament, and this version featured Super Macho Man as the final boss. In October of 1987, the game was released on the NES in the US, with the Japanese and PAL versions coming in November and December of '87 respectively. Now, it's not a direct port, obviously, due to the limitations of the NES hardware, but the changes honestly work, because you get this real sense of you're the underdog fighting against impossible odds. Considering your fighter is much smaller than every other fighter in the game, I think you really feel more of an attachment to the actual character as opposed to the wireframe model you got in the arcade version. But the most notable change from the arcade to the home port is the addition of Mike Tyson. Until his license with Nintendo ran out and they had to re-release the game with Mr. Dream as the last fight. I'm not really a fan of that version. I think this game is Punch-Out with Mike Tyson. It's Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. It's not Mr. Dream's Punch-Out. Mike Tyson all the way, baby. This game just oozes personality from every pore. I mean, come on, from the random lines that are spit from your opponent and your trainer, the wise Doc Lewis, before and after fights and even in between rounds. Every fighter has his own personality and character, unlike Johnny Curtis before Fandango.
It's Fandango!
Get the fuck out of my review, Fandango. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, your opponents. Anyway, every one of them has their own personality. It's awesome. You have the narcissistic, egotistical, steroid freak Super Macho Man to the dancing Spaniard Don Flamenco. If you go into this game expecting a button masher, be prepared to get your ass handed to you pretty damn quick. This game is no button mashing boxing simulator by any means. There is a ton of pattern memorization, timing, knowing when to dodge, counter, and block. Trust me, some of these counters can be pretty goddamn tricky. Be prepared to mash that A and B button back and forth to get back up a few times after Bald Bull knocks you to the ground trying to counter his Bolt Charge. And at one point, when you find the second time, you will have to counter this to beat him. While most games on the NES haven't aged well, some not aging past the week it was released, trust me, a lot of games have that honor. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out is one of those exceptions. With its over-the-top characters, phenomenal arcade gameplay, and its non-button mashing approach, it was truly ahead of its time. The series only saw 2 other home console releases, Super Punch-Out for the Super Nintendo, and Punch-Out for the Wii. This is one of those games that is truly a time capsule of the late 80s. Now, it has been re-released as Punch-Out featuring Mr. Dream on the 3DS eShop, Wii, and Wii U Virtual Consoles. But the timing is a little bit off in those versions, so for my money, I would go after the Mike Tyson version. Screw Mr. Dream. That is because of the novelty of being able to fight Mike Tyson. This game is an absolute gem, a must-own for anyone with an interest in retro games, great arcade ports, or someone who hasn't discovered this classic. What rock have you been living under? Now, I'm gonna go blast him. I think I can beat Mike Tyson. Pegasus out.